Hey, this is Spencer from Metal Recusants.
And this is Dominique.
Not to be confused with Dom, the founder of Metal Recusants. But yeah, we went to the Maryland Deathfest, number 12, this past weekend. We went on the last day, May 25th, which had a lot of the doom metal bands, and we're really into traditional and doom metal, so that worked out for us. There we met Dom, the founder of Metal Recusants, and his friend Alex, and that was great. But yeah, I think the setup, the main venue was really good. 2 outdoor stages. I think it was really well organized.
Yeah, I thought they had a good setup as far as organizing the stages, from the food and the vendor tents and the band tents all divided out.
Definitely. This year they had 2 outdoor stages in the main venue, and they had 2 other venues that were indoor, so they really divided the bands up more so this year, which ended up working out because a lot of the doom metal bands were at the main venue, so people like us would want to go see them. And yeah, I think the setup was great.
I thought it was more open. A lot of
Definitely.
people being less crowded, and
Definitely.
a lot of people to move around more so.
Yeah, I think there was more room near the stages for people to crowd around. Definitely more space.
Overall, good setup.
Alright, so the band that opened up the day was Windhand, which is a stoner doom metal band from Virginia, female fronted. Yeah, they have an interesting sound. The singer, she does a lot of like wails, a lot of like long notes. And I think they were a pretty good opener. They're kind of like a less interesting Acid King to me. That might sound kind of rude, but that's what I think.
I thought they were a good opener. They had decent energy for the audience, considering the fact that they are a relatively new band.
Mm-hmm.
I think the vocal levels and the instrumentation was well balanced, and I think she brought in a larger female audience, which is always nice.
Yeah, I think more so this year there were more females in attendance, which is good.
But yeah, I think they played well, and I enjoyed them. I was fairly familiar with them and their work, so I enjoyed them as an opener.
All right, so the next band that played was Bong Ripper, which is an instrumental stoner doom metal band. And I joked that there was a vendor there that sold like bowls and different like smoking related items, and I joked that was the Bong Ripper merch. Yeah, they're pretty decent stoner doom metal. They're kind of like Sleep, sort of. Maybe like more like a modern day Sleep kind of. They have like a lot of really long songs, but instrumental. But I thought they were a little less interesting than Sleep.
Yeah, I thought they were good. They performed well. However, the fact that they have only instrumentation, no vocals, it can be challenging to keep an audience interested, and it can drag on to some degree. But I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, they performed well. After Bong Ripper was Graves at Sea, which is a stoner doom metal band with harsh vocals. I'm not usually into harsh vocals, but I thought it really worked well for them. Often he sang at a really high register, which I think kind of sounded like the demon baby from Black Sabbath's Born Again. If that baby could speak. I think a highlight was the song Betting on Black, in which the singer constantly repeated, "You're born into this world of shit and then you die."
Yeah.
Which is pretty morbid, but I thought the riffs were great, and I thought his delivery was great too, though I think unfortunately the vocals weren't really balanced right with the instruments, so they got kind of lost in the background with him.
Yeah, I would say that they were good, and despite my usual distaste for such harsh vocals, I thought that, though I have to give him props for being able to maintain that level of consistency throughout his vocals, I thought that they sounded fairly true to their in-studio sound. And I also liked the fact there was a moment in the performance where someone from the crowd shouted, "You rule," and he's like, "No, we don't." And he was just being very modest, like a humble guy, like, and I can appreciate that sense of modesty. Just, kind of gives you a vibe for how the performers are. So they put on a good show, though.
The next 2 bands, Misery Index and Pseudo God, we didn't see. But then we did see Wrath Prayer, which is a black death metal band from Chile. They didn't have corpse paint, but they did have some face paint. And they were alright, but they did have a lot of technical problems. The vocals weren't that audible. And I mean, they're kind of in between songs, kind of messing around with their instruments, trying to fix some problems. And we kind of left early, like towards the end of their set.
Yeah, it was really hard to decipher a lot of the vocals. And they also had kind of a lackluster stage presence, considering the fact that they had some painted, faces, and they presented themselves to almost have some kind of persona, and then nothing came of it really. So they didn't really keep my interest that much, unfortunately.
The next band was Inquisition, which is a 2-piece black metal band from Colombia. It was just a drummer and then a guitarist and singer. Leaving out the bass, I thought worked well, just because I feel like in extreme metal, the bass is often underutilized anyway. So I think just having the 2-piece band worked fine. And they were in full corpse paint, which is pretty cool. Because as we all know, it's not real black metal if you're not in corpse paint. I'm not really into black metal, but I thought instrumentally, they had a traditional thrashy vibe, which I appreciated. And this is, I think, where the pit got really intense.
Yeah, I think this was the first band to really get the crowd riled up enough to really get moshing, and I thought that they were a good power duo that I enjoyed. And I don't usually like super harsh vocals like these. However, they were balanced enough that I could actually decipher them. And I thought that the sound between the vocals and the instrumentation was very well balanced, considering the level of harshness in the vocals.
Yeah, and I thought the singer kind of sounded like a frog. He kind of had the resonance of a frog. He had some bass to him, which I say that in a good way. I thought it really worked. It made him more distinct.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of variation between his vocal style, which keeps things interesting. So...
yeah, they played really well.
Yeah, they were fun.
And the next band, Soylent Green, we did not see. The next band was Gorguts, which is a Canadian death metal band. They were pretty cool, but just not really my thing. I'm not really into death metal that much.
Yeah, I thought they were energetic and they had a good balance in sound. They definitely had the energy to keep the crowd moving.
Yeah, they definitely continued the trend that Inquisition started.
But the vocals didn't really vary too much in style. Very consistent, heavy, harsh sound. But the lead vocalist, his guitaring was awesome, very impressive. He was putting on quite a show with his drumming techniques, and I thought that he was a really good, he put on some good solos and such. And I also thought that the band was very friendly and talkative. The vocalist was interacting with the crowd, very engaged, talking with us, and I appreciate that because it gives them a very genuine, down-to-earth feel, and get a sense of them as individuals, which I like, honestly.
Very true. Next was Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, which is a band we really wanted to see. We got into recently. They're a British doom metal band. They're like a 70s throwback. They opened for Black Sabbath last year, and they got popular pretty quickly. They only started a few years back, but just like last year, they got really popular. Really doomy. Their music was really danceable too, compared to the other bands. Not just a typical headbang, but you could definitely move your body to it. A lot of Charles Manson references. They have a lot of great grooves. Very fun. There's a good amount of moshing too, and crowd surfing. And it was interesting because I think the intensity of the pit sort of matched the tempo of the songs that were being played to some degree. Sometimes during slow songs there was some...
I felt like there was the heavy melodic sound had a great response from the audience. Like there was these waves of heavy energy from the audience.
Yeah, sometimes
made it awesome.
The moshing was a little slow.
Which I enjoyed.
Just swaying back and forth, which was good.
Yeah, they were hypnotic, and they were very consistent with their in-studio sound. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was I was slightly thrown off by the second guitarist overpowering Uncle Acid himself.
In terms of singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because the mic's volume was a little lower compared to the instruments, so I think the backup singer sort of, the other guitarist, he was sort of singing louder to compensate for that.
Yeah.
So it was weird how the backup singer kind of ended up being the lead singer. Due to that, but I think it was okay.
It balanced out by the end of it, whether it was between me just getting swept up in the music or just being in the overall busyness of the crowd. It worked out in the end.
It was all right. And then I was concerned about them not having a live keyboard player because a good amount of their songs feature keyboards a lot. But I don't think anything was lost by it. I think it ended up working out fine.
Yeah, by the end of the set, I felt like I had gotten exactly what I wanted from the performance and more, and I was done. I was good for the night.
Yeah.
But then Candlemass came on, and yeah.
Then Candlemass. The next band was Candlemass, which is the main reason why we went there. Because I remember months and months ago when it was first announced, I was like, yes, Candlemass. Yeah, they're a Swedish epic doom metal band, and epic doom metal is what you got. Their new singer, Mats Levin, is really great. He's along the same vibe as the other singers they've had, but I think he works really well with the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had really great, crushing riffs. I even crowd surfed for the first time to Bewitched and Emperor of the Void, and that was really fun. I was gonna do it with Uncle Acid, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they had a really good... They put on a great atmosphere with the lights and smoke.
Oh yeah, the fog was great.
Good. And
yeah, they started out just completely fogged out in the beginning. That was great.
And I think that the greatest part about it really was what the audience was so engaged because, you know, we all sang, knew, and loved this band, and everybody was there for them.
Yeah.
And I think that made, like, the whole experience just awesome.
Yeah, people were demanding 10 more songs.
Yeah.
Not just one more song. The crowd really loved them.
Yeah, and like Mats Levin, he was really engaged with the crowd, and I think he put on just the right amount of theatrics for the audience and really led us on and prompted us to sing with him, and it was just a great experience.
Yeah, and then during Bewitched, I did the Doom Stomp from the infamous Bewitched music video, and other people were doing that in the pit as well. Yeah. And that was a really great experience. And then I did the same with Solitude.
Yeah, I think At the Gallows End and Solitude were definitely highlights from the performance.
Yeah, the last two songs, they were really great. Solitude almost felt like a religious experience. Like everyone was ironically singing along with the band.
Right.
And yeah, the pit during the whole thing, during the whole set was really intense. But yeah, they did slow it down at times, and there was a lot going on there.
Yeah. And I mean, what it came down to is people were chanting to have them play more songs.
Yeah.
And wanted them to go on. And
definitely.
Honestly, they should have closed this event.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember Dom afterward was saying that, like, you know, out of all the bands, it was Candlemass that people were really chanting them to play more. One point I do want to make is that they did have a live keyboard player, but unfortunately, I really couldn't hear that much keyboard, which was a little weird. But then when I watched videos after the fact, I could hear him a little more.
I heard him pretty well.
Yeah. I just thought they could have been balanced a little more. But yeah, they had a great set.
Yeah, they were great.
The closer of the night was My Dying Bride, which is a British gothic death doom metal band. But yeah, we were basically done after Candlemass. I mean, they really should have closed the night. I mean, the big reason was because My Dying Bride hadn't played in the US for 18 years, they said, which is pretty crazy. But I mean, Candlemass is older. They're, I think, a bigger band, more innovative.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd, to some degree, reflected that. A good amount of people left after Candlemass.
Yeah, I think I have a level of respect for this band. However, I don't think they should have closed. I think they have a unique and interesting sound, but I think it becomes somewhat formulaic, and which makes it hard to stay engaged at 10:30 at night after a day full of bands.
I mean, I think a lot of bands are formulaic, but I thought they did have a good variety with, you know, they go from a very death metal sound to more gothic with, like, you know, the organ and the violin, I thought added some variety too.
I mean, I think there is variety there, and they have all these interesting components that make up their songs, but I think they create this, what becomes a predictable contrast, whether it be through the slow, deep sung vocals or sections comprised of the violin. They vary up their long songs with moments of shifting tempo, which is appreciated, but it becomes kind of obvious to me at least. But fortunately, they have that variation in tempo because otherwise the songs would be unbearably long.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have a problem with them being predictable. I think a lot of bands are predictable. But I'm just not a huge My Dying Bride fan. Like I said, I think Candlemass should have closed it. I mean, I like them better. But, I mean, I thought I'm not too familiar with My Dying Bride's songs, but I think they performed pretty well.
Yeah.
Though I think the crowd wasn't as big for them as they were for Candlemass.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can appreciate their vocalist who changed up his style and vocals, and I definitely can appreciate the incorporation of different instrumentation, the violin and their organ-sounding keyboards. But I think that, yeah, they would have benefited having not been the last band to perform.
That's an interesting point, because they might have had a bigger crowd if they played before Candlemass and Candlemass closed. Because, I mean, a lot of people left, like I said. So that actually could have benefited them.
Yeah, and I think I enjoyed the dark gothic sound. However, I think compared to the other bands that performed, they had a little less energy of sorts. So to be the last band, it actually, people are tired. And I think if Candlemass were to close, that would have worked out a lot better for the event itself.
Mm-hmm.
They were still good, and I think that they created a unique twist for the festival overall.
They definitely sounded different than all the other bands. So overall, we just had a really great, fun time. Candlemass was one of the best sets I've ever seen. I mean, they are one of my favorite bands, so that does make sense. But they were just great to see. The mosh pits were fun, and I did like how they sometimes got slow. They kind of correlated to the tempo sometimes. And I thought that was interesting and kind of something different too.
Yeah, I thought that each of the bands performed well and brought their own, components, which made everything interesting to watch each set. I had a great time.
Yeah, I'll definitely go next year if there's bands I want to see, because 2 years ago they had St. Vitus, and last year they had Pentagram, this year they had Candlemass. Yeah. So all my favorite doom metal bands.
And I mean, I think every year that we've gone, it's gotten we've gotten more prepared for it, and we've gotten more into it because we know what to expect.
It's definitely true. I mean, going to a festival, it's definitely good to familiarize yourself with the bands and their songs. Knowing the songs just make the sets just much more engaging and more
that's
fun.
how I felt, especially with Windhand. I felt prepared for them, and that's what allowed me to enjoy them a lot more than I expected to. So I enjoyed all the sets we watched. And
definitely.
Had a great time watching and moshing and thrashing. So.
Yeah, it was really fun. So
one can only look forward to, maybe, if we get to go again, that'd be awesome. If not, then we've had a great time every time we've gone.
Definitely. Well, this is Spencer from Metal Recusants.
And this is Dominique.
From
Life.
All right, and
Peace.
see ya.